salutations to another episode of Den of Otaku, Den of Geek's official anime, Japanese pop culture discussion series where we're going to break down all of the latest developments in the industry. To begin with, Scavenger's Reign is not an anime. I would not tell you it's an anime, but so why is it on Den of Otaku? Why are we talking about it here? Well, I think Scavenger's Reign is really interesting because the thing that people are gravitating to the most on it is how this show takes nature and animals and insects and kind of combines them into this new symbiotic relationship that is familiar with how the real world works, but is also very different. And it's an interesting storytelling structure where Flora becomes Fauna, and you're kind of just seeing a world evolve as a stand-in for a narrative. And Scavenger's Reign, which is a show about a bunch of just astronauts trying to get back home to survive, to find their ship and find some normalcy again. But what it is doing has been going on in anime for a long time, like Studio Ghibli films and Miyazaki movies, any of his films that are interested in nature, like Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind and Princess Mononoke. These are movies where we see new forms of nature and animals and insects that don't exist in our world, but are the creation of these worlds because of evolving with mankind. You know, mankind is tainting nature, they're making it more toxic, and you have animals and creatures that kind of evolve out of that and help fix the world. It's really cool to see that go on in Studio Ghibli movies. There's another series called Made in Abyss that kind of dresses itself up as this cute adventure show where adventurers go down this big abyss, and each level of this abyss is more cursed than the last. It really gets more mature the deeper this show goes on, and in that show you have characters who are losing their humanity as they get transformed into monsters and other abnormal creations, but they all help serve the world and show that you need the good and the bad to kind of make sense of all of this. Space Dandy is another show we've talked about before, but in that, there's characters just going to new planets, and each planet truly feels foreign in terms of its animals and nature and how these work together to kind of create something that we've never seen before. It's really beautiful in those shows, but there are also programs called Terra For Mars. Terra For Mars shows the more gross side of this kind of phenomenon. That's a show where a bunch of scientists want to colonize Mars. So they send a bunch of algae and cockroaches to Mars. They go back 500 years later, hoping that Mars will be colonized, but instead these cockroaches have kind of evolved into humanoid people. And there's a war against these cockroaches, but also an understanding that we are destined to become these cockroaches. They all kind of have their own superhuman powers in a way that speaks to how they are the next step in evolution, and that even though it might not be pretty, it's kind of where the world is headed in these shows. So Scavenger's Reign really scratches that itch, but if you're still interested in more shows that get into that type of storytelling, anime has been doing it for so long, and there's a lot more to check out in that regard, whether it's Made in Abyss, whether it's Nausicaa, the Valley of the Wind, or Terra For Mars. They're such fun, complementary pieces to Scavenger's Reign, and if you like those anime, check out Scavenger's Reign too, because even though it's not an anime, it's very much built from the same foundation. Now, another way that we'd like to look at blurred lines in this episode is a discussion of Attack on Titan. Attack on Titan is an anime you've probably heard about before. It's one of the biggest anime of the decade. In fact, I'd say it's one of the biggest anime of all time, and there's a lot of anime that hit the ground running and are really popular, but can't stick the landing, or they peter out over time, and Attack on Titan is such a exciting exception to that rule, that it begins as this kind of more intimate man against monster story, but it is one of my favorite examples of just long-form storytelling, foreshadowing, and how to expand a world in really unique and believable ways. There are so many twists in this show that happen at the exact right moments, and it seems like each twist should make the next one seem a little more generic, but that's never the case with Attack on Titan. The show's final season is kind of more controversial since it broadens the world in such a way that you're seeing characters who used to be enemies and now have a new understanding, and it blurs the lines between who is good and who is bad in this world. And the most fascinating thing about this is its final episodes really push this narrative with the protagonist, Eren Yeager, and really blur the lines between what a shonen protagonist is, should be, and can be. I think a lot of the time in anime, we just trust that the hero is doing the right thing, and Attack on Titan really has both the audience and the supporting characters begin to question if Eren is justified in his actions, if what he's doing is just a means to an end, and that it is going to get somewhere positive. But the show really challenges the audience that way and shows that a shonen protagonist doesn't have to be clear-cut, that they can be someone that really makes you uncomfortable. Attack on Titan isn't the first show to do this. There are other anime like Code Geass that gets in similar territory, but Attack on Titan, I think, is the most accomplished example of that, and the anime is finally over. So if for whatever reason you haven't checked out the show, there's never been a better time to do it because it's all available. You don't have to wait years between seasons to get closure. It's all there. If you're someone that needs to watch a dub for a show, it is one of the best dubs you'll come across, and 99% of the series has been dubbed too, so that is all available. And so if you're just looking for an exciting shonen show that's kind of earned its reputation, Attack on Titan is the way to go, and also just is hopefully pushing the shonen genre to new exciting places with how a hero functions and operates. Now, unfortunately, fellow otaku, that's all the time we have in this episode before I get isekai'd back to reality, but we'd once again like to thank you for joining us on this adventure, and until next time, Space Cowboys, we'll see you then.